What is happening right now that most people are unaware of? 1. A plastic-eating fungus was discovered in the ocean. Yes, that's right, the Earth is attempting to heal itself. Also, in Chernobyl, a radiation-eating black fungus was discovered. 2. Certainly not one of the worst things going on in the world right now, but one of the most impressive ships ever built could be headed to the scrapyard or turned into an artificial reef. The SS United States is the fastest ocean liner ever built and sailed across the North Atlantic for 17 years, before passenger jets made liners obsolete. A few months ago, the company which owns the pier she's tied up at doubled the rent. The SS United States Conservancy, who own the ship, were required to find another pier or face huge fines. Fortunately, the company that owns the pier have seemingly been up to some shady stuff, so the deadline to move her has been pushed back, but her future is still very uncertain. 3. The Earth is gonna have a school bus-sized second moon for a short period of time. 4. The continued use of Pegasus spyware to target politicians, journalists, and activists worldwide. Although the issue made headlines a few years ago, its persistent threat to freedom of expression and privacy is often overlooked today. Another underreported concern is the killing of environmental activists, especially in the global south, where those advocating for environmental protection face significant dangers. 5. In Canada, the National Security Service has determined that foreign agents, Russia, China, and India, have compromised, paid off, members of both political parties, which means neither party is calling for any details to be released. 6. Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. This program gifts books free of charge to children birth to 5 years old. This is through funding from Dolly Parton and community partners through the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, and Republic of Ireland. However, still due to funding, it's not available in all locations, unfortunately. But it gets children excited about books and reading. Illiteracy is still more prominent than people realize, and this is an amazing program for our children. Dolly Parton is a beautiful soul. 7. They are building a full-scale factory that will make truly biodegradable plastic PHA that can be run through existing parts manufacturing machinery, has the plastic characteristics people want in straws and lids and plastic where yet is essential sugar. 8. In the computer hardware world, there are two big things that will bring down energy consumption in computers. Data centers use a shitload of power. First is the industry transition from x86 architecture to ARM. Apple Silicon and Snapdragon chips are starting to appear in servers and consumer devices. ARM has been around since the 1980s. But the drawback has always been that it's not as powerful as x86. They're worse processors. But in the last 5 to 7 years, they've gotten good enough that the trade-off in performance versus energy consumption is worth it. In the same vein, RISC-V is a new architecture. It's technically, or should I say theoretically, more efficient than ARM. Although not by any meaningful amount. The fun part about RISC-V is that it's license-free. So RISC-V processors are much cheaper than their ARM or x86 counterparts. I'm hopeful that this becomes a big deal. But it's too soon to say. But the other thing is SoC, or System on Chip. Apple was first to get the concept to market with the Apple Silicon. But Microsoft has answered with Snapdragon chips. But the advantages of SoC is that all the important components are on a single chip. The CPU, the GPU, the TPU, the RAM, all of it. All on one piece of silicon. It's also more energy efficient, it's faster on tasks that require interaction of hardware, which is most things. It's physically smaller so devices can be more compact or leave more space for other things like batteries, and it's, overall, cheaper than buying all the components separately. 9. Scientists around the world are making computers that run off of human brain organoids harvested from the cells of aborted human fetuses. It sounds like something from a sci-fi book. It's called wetware. It's said to be much faster than our most advanced computers, while also being very energy efficient. But the brains die after a few weeks, which need to be replaced, and there are obvious ethical concerns that aren't being addressed anywhere that I can find. Not just the whole can of worms that is abortion, but the using human cells for commercial use thing. It's just the tip of the iceberg. We're definitely going to see a rise in all sorts of biotechnology in the coming decades. I don't know about you, but I don't want a human biophone in pocket. 10. Snow line is getting further and further north every year. In my area, it was like 55 degrees on Christmas Day, and there's no sign of any snow in the near future. When I was little, we had weeks of snow, and we were buried in it, but now we don't even get any. 11. There's a literal Holocaust happening in China right now. 2+ million Uyghurs, the Muslim minority in China, are held in concentration camps. They're taken from their homes, families are split up, and they're subjected to forced labor, forced sterilization, among a whole litany of other human rights abuses. It's a literal genocide, 1/3 the size of the Holocaust from WW2, and hardly anyone knows about it. 12. I'm from Ohio. While everyone is talking about the racist shit Vance said that were lies, those mask an even bigger issue. In the summer our state legislature, which is gerrymandered AF, voted that taxpayers no longer pay for vouchers to private schools, they now pay for construction of new private religious schools. This is a problem for a lot of reasons in general, church and state, but it's also part of a plan to defund public schools. When he made those remarks, the city was flooded with threats of gun violence in schools. The schools were shut down. Parents don't feel their kids are safe in school, and that's the point. Meanwhile, the troubled teen industry is open and active here. Multiple programs owned by the big 3 companies in the industry, some taking kids as young as 5. One is owned by a for-profit prison corp. Bernie Moreno and Donald Trump have accepted the most from these programs in terms of campaign donations, but Harris has taken her share. Both sides do. In fact, the Stop Institutional Child Abuse Act might be dead in the water because it required approval from a Democrat rep from NJ who has never taken campaign donations from. 13. The U.S. debt is $37 trillion. The interest on that is over $1 trillion per year. The debt is growing, and the government, rather than talking about how they're going to reduce it, is talking about the next hundreds of billions of dollars it wants to spend. The GDP for 2023 was $27.36 trillion. GDP, gross domestic product, is a monetary measure of the market value of all the final goods and services produced and rendered in a specific time period by a country or countries. GDP is often used to measure the economic health of a country or region. TLDR, our national debt situation is unsustainable, and nobody is even addressing it. 14. People tend to believe crime is up. In fact, violent crime has been trending down for a few years, after a major spike during the pandemic. New data from the FBI is due any day now, and expected to show still further declines. 15. The UAP Disclosure Act, UAPDA, was recently denied inclusion in the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA. This is significant because the UAPDA was aimed at promoting transparency on the U.S. government's research and information regarding unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, commonly known as UFOs. Its exclusion from the NDAA means there may be delays or setbacks in the public receiving detailed government disclosures about these phenomena, which has been a growing topic of interest and concern for both national security and scientific exploration. 16. Millions of people around the world are suffering from long-term health complications following one or more COVID infections. The general term for this phenomenon is long COVID, but the media and most news outlets don't mention it much, if at all, and while being up to date on COVID vaccines will help reduce your chances of getting long COVID, anyone can get long COVID regardless of your age, current health status, or how many COVID vaccines you've had, and your chances of getting long COVID increase each time you get COVID. 17. Advancements in bioelectronics have made significant headway, meaning devices could be implanted into your brain that would make it possible for you to interact with electronics, just by using your mind. We're still a ways off though, but it could be possible in the future. 18. Papa John's crust got thinner due to recipe change.